Welcome to the Retro Blood.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Retro Blood as we continue this New York nightlife killer 1980s month. Bright lights, big blood. Let's say big butt. You know, big butt is good too. All right, bright lights, blood, New York craziness, leather jackets, Freddie Mercury lookalikes. You know what I mean? All kind of crazy 1980s wildness. And up next, if you all like leather clubs, if you all like putting yellow bandanas in the correct pocket to get a golden shower, if you all like a pretty crazy time period, I would say, for the Leatherman lifestyle, if you all like dirty New York, and if you all like Al Pacino not doing cocaine, then this is the review for you, brother, because the Retro Blood's talking all about cruising. J.H. Alison, James Kline, what's happening, Alison? How's your
what's up?
How is your New York lifestyle going? You know, over there with the copping.
It's just fine. This is a movie. I'd never seen this movie before, but it's a movie that I'd been meaning to see, and this gave us an excuse to watch it.
Yeah,
it's a William Friedkin movie.
Yeah,
and William Friedkin's never made a bad movie.
It's true.
So,
yeah, this one actually has a very interesting story to it. You know, obviously this movie is about the gay life scene. What do you call it? The gay scene, the S&M gay Leatherman scene in the 80s, which was actually a pretty real thing going on in the 80s at the time.
Yeah.
And is a very underground, type of lifestyle that all these gay men were living. And it was crazy, how much accurate a lot of this stuff was on this movie when it comes to how they would act at the bars, or the bandana, stuff like that. And it's obviously we weren't alive during that stuff, but I have heard about some of this history before, and it's pretty crazy to think how underground this that scene is now, and how I wouldn't say it's super underground nowadays, but it's a lot more open nowadays. You know what I mean? I think a lot more people are especially as time has gone by, when it comes to the gay lifestyle, a lot of people are more open-minded to it compared to the 80s, where it was a lot more of a taboo type of thing. So, and it's a very interesting story because it's a very interesting story too, but to me for this one is because it's it's showing you what a serial killer who goes around killing, this, taboo lifestyle,
right,
and how much easier they can get away with it than if they're killing somebody, more of in the limelight. It's pretty, it's pretty wild, I would say.
Yeah, and one thing this movie made me realize is that they have apparently quite a complicated hanky culture.
Yes.
And this was difficult to navigate, and I think that's just too complicated for me. I don't think that that I could ever be gay, if for no other reason than it would just be too complicated to navigate the different hankies that you have to wear in different places.
Now, I'm disappointed.
I had no idea. I know this is not a documentary, but I had no idea how deep and complicated this was.
Yeah, it was damn, he kind of cut him off right when he was going to tell us the red one too. I mean, it's fuck, man, what would that one going to be? All right, I already got some wild ones. I wrote them all down, by the way. So we will going over the hanky
and
formation of what you classify as being.
And and it had Powers Booth playing the hanky salesman.
Oh, interesting. So
yeah, he's a great actor, and he's playing the guy selling the hankies. But,
and
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that one detective wasn't that dude that we just talked about him. Wasn't he a Maniac?
Well, the patrol cop was Joe Spinell.
I knew it. Yes, we talked about that. Yeah. So there he goes, man. He's in 2 movies that we did this month.
Yeah, he was. Well, this movie you just used a whole lot of famous New York actors.
Yes.
Like Al Pacino and Joe Spinell and James Remar and Powers Booth and a lot of people that were acting in New York at the time. So, this was definitely not what you would consider an underground movie. This was definitely released. William Friedkin was a famous director. He directed The Exorcist and a Sorcerer and a bunch of other great movies. But this was, I have a feeling, I haven't checked the budget on this, but I have a feeling this was more on the low budget side for him, though.
I don't know. It says like 11 million. So, it's not like
for most movies we talk about, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. So, but maybe for him, maybe on the lower bit. But it's, it's very fascinating subject, especially for this time. I always feel like it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And it did remind me when I was watching this too, like, one of the TV shows I used to like a whole lot, American Horror Story. Yeah. They actually did a whole season kind of based on around this this subject as well too.
Yeah, everything they do is based on something else.
Yeah. And it's very interesting too because, I'm not exactly sure. I probably should have done a little bit more research, but obviously, during this particular time, we're a lot of these New York movies that we talked about, besides Manhattan Baby, that was a thing onto its own. But a lot of the ones we've been talking about this month, a lot of them have been based loosely on the Son of Sam kind of murders,
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure if there was actually a killer within the gay community killing, that section of people. But I know, like the one that comes to my mind all the time is Jeffrey Dahmer. And
that's probably the most famous one from our time period.
Yeah, from our time period, because he would do a lot of the same stuff that the killer in this movie was doing, where he would lure the gay person, the person, to the, love spot, and he would kill him, and then they would chop up the bodies, kind of like how this killer did it as well too. So I'm not exactly sure if they were taking it from Dahmer or there was actually a.
Well, no, Dahmer hadn't happened yet.
Okay, he was later on.
Yeah, Dahmer was like late 80s, early 90s when he was caught.
Gotcha. So it's very
probably 90, 91, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, but it's probably just more of like the hate crimes they were kind of going on, because I know this movie was also based on a book too, as well.
Yes, it was also based on a book, which is based on an article about the gay culture, I believe.
So.
We said that for nearly all of these movies that they were somewhat based on Son of Sam, but I think that basically the reason that is because the Son of Sam murders, which happened in the summer of '77, that was only 3 years before this movie came out. Not quite 3 years, really, because this movie came out in February of 1980. So they were making this movie probably 2 years after all that happened. And I think it just affected New York so much with all these, strange killings that nobody knows why were happening. Yeah. The details don't really match. Basically, David Berkowitz would just walk up to these people in the car and shoot them and walk away. There was no chopping up of bodies or stabbing people or anything like that.
Yeah. Very interesting. So, but we'll talk about it. There is some pretty interesting behind the scenes stuff when it comes to this movie, when it comes to the production and how it's semi related to some hate crimes connections that actually happen as well too, which we'll talk about as well. But very, very interesting story here, and it's very, at first I didn't we weren't sure if it was going to fit, the theme of the horror movie podcast, but I think it actually was. To me, this movie was actually very creepy, because, it's like the guy, it's a serial killer, okay, and he's going out there killing these, section of of people that a lot of people are, it's basically very taboo around this particular period. A lot of people don't want to be connected to them. And you're seeing how the cops, like, at first they're just like letting it go by because they don't really care about that section of people until like some heat kind of comes down on the actual governor of that side of the side of that group, that particular, group, the gay people. It was election season coming up. And then that's why he wanted those votes, and that's why he created a task force to find the killer. Like, what happens if the election season wasn't coming up? Would they not care about that? Yeah. Which is crazy. It's like, like if somebody's killing somebody, they should have the same, death penalties or whatever. If you're killing, gay people or straight people, bears, cats, whatever.
Right.
So it's pretty
still people.
Exactly. So it's pretty crazy. So, but we'll talk about it all. It's very, very fascinating movie, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty, it's pretty crazy, and it showed exactly what we wanted for this rounds of reviews. It showed the very dirty, like, nightlife of New York. You know what I mean? Like very raunchy, dirty, all kind of wild stuff. So we'll talk about it though. It should be pretty fun. But like we've been doing every episode this month for the Retro Blood, we have been doing our weekly Oktoberfest reviews.
Yeah, it's our last one.
Exactly.
Sad, but
do you think our boy Steve, after a night of cruising, do you think he would drink a nice Oktoberfest?
Oh, I bet he would.
Yeah, he looks like that guy.
I bet he would.
All right. No margaritas for him. All Oktoberfest, bro.
No.
So a couple things. First of all, I am in my shoot life, I travel a lot for my job nowadays. Yeah. And no shit, I probably had like about 3 Oktoberfest beers, all from the great state of Texas. Okay, last week. And I wish I could have like wrote a lot of them down, because some of them were really good, and a lot of them even came from Germany. They say, oh, this was the original recipe made in Germany. We got it bottled over here. All right,
they all say that.
They all say that. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like the haunted houses. You know what I mean? This is the scariest haunted house in North Carolina, and then the other 2 seconds away, this is the scariest haunted house. So,
or even scarier.
Yes. So, but they're all good. I think my favorite one I had was actually in Denton, Texas. All right, at a bar that I forgot what it was called, but it was really good. But I think I'll go first this round, okay. Alison, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
So I was thinking, okay, should I talk about some of the beer I had in Texas? And I was like, well, I can't remember any of the names. All right, but they all taste pretty good. So I was like, okay, I want to do what I was drinking like and when I was in Texas. They all say it was very authentic. It was all made from Germany. All right. Mm-hmm. And so I went by the local Ingles that we have over here, and I found me a Beard in Germany Oktoberfest. I'm going to fuck up this name. Hacker Pischkor? Oktoberfest Margin?
Sure. I actually do not know how to say the name of this beer company.
Hacker Pischkor.
To be honest with you. Yeah, something like that. What do you think of it? I haven't had this one.
I haven't had it either. This is my first time getting it. And so I did the gimmick where you can like pick like 5 random beers. All right, but they barely had like any Oktoberfest I didn't have. So like I literally just like took this beer out of one of the packages and I put it in my pick'em.
You're confessing that live on the air, man.
Oops.
The Ingles police are going to come and get you.
I know. But, the
95-year-old Ingles security guy is going to come to your house.
Exactly. And I was like, you know what? I did it for research purposes. So, technically, they should be sponsoring me for this beer, because I went out of my way to review it here on the show. All right? Where we have listeners from all over the world. And now they're going to go pick up Hacker Pischkor. All right? And they're going to be like, James Kline he recommended this beer, and he took it from Ingles. All right, and I still paid for it. I just didn't pay for the whole package. So,
Right.
but let's give it a try over here. Let's pop this bad boy open. It's in a glass too, which I prefer. So no cans over here. So this one's all the way from Germany, supposedly. So we'll see how it is. Okay. I see. Yep. That sounds. So the German beers, because I have had German beers before. You know what I mean? Like the German style of beer. Like this, for some reason, their taste is like this. Like it's like very like when it comes to the Marzen style, it's like very like that. It's like very like smoothing, like a little bit like almost creamy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Well, yes, it's very well, I would use the word foamy, but yes.
Yes. So, I mean, it's not bad. This one's not bad. This one actually tastes a lot like the Oktoberfest I had in Helen, Georgia. If y'all want to ever go visit over there, they have a kind of like a little like German theme town. And they have, it's kind of like basically a German theme town. And their Oktoberfest tastes a lot like this one. So, but it's good. It's not has like rich, and it's not has like malty, has like the other Oktoberfest I've had from like made over here, like the Raleigh one, or the couple ones we've had on this podcast before. But it's more of the I guess the traditional style of the Oktoberfest. So, but it's not bad. All right, it's about 5.8%. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that's a good. That anymore, like I used to really like high gravity beers, but I don't anymore. I don't like the way they taste, and they're just not as fun to drink because you drink a couple of high gravity beers, 12%, and you're pretty much done for the night. But these, 3.5, 4, 5, ABV beers, you can just sit there and have a few and have conversations, kind of like we do here.
Yeah. So
like we did.
Well, here's what it says on the bottle.
No, right. Read the bottle to me.
Since 1417 through today, Hacker Pishofor is considered the special beer for heavenly day-to-day moments. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Like, I wonder if they beered this beer and they're like, you know what? There's a guy named James Kline who's going to drink our beer and talk about leather gay men. Maybe that's what they mean by heavenly day-to-day moments.
Yeah, those years ago.
So we call it heaven in bravada. You call it hacker. Yes, we try to call it hacker pishfor. All right.
Pishfor. Yeah.
So the bottle's pretty nice too. It has a nice little German. What do you think? What do they call the German girls that's all dressed up in the big dresses?
I don't know.
Tavern wenches.
I know what you're talking about, though. I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah, there's a special name for them, but I just call them tavern wenches.
Yeah, I'm sure they love that.
I don't think you're allowed to do that. Well, if I was in the leather club, Alison, I can call anybody anything.
Apparently so.
And apparently, we all have to look like Freddie Mercury too. I don't know if y'all noticed.
Well, I was thinking they all look like Rob Halford, but yeah, it's the same difference.
It's a style, man. Come on now. All right. So, but yeah, that's nice little German towns on there and everything. So, By the way, go ahead, Alison. How's yours?
No, I got to open mine. So I also bought a German beer because I thought for the last week I'll get an actual German brewed beer. So, I got the Polliner. I believe that's how you say it. It's their Oktoberfest, their Marzen. This was the beer that was brewed to celebrate the original Oktoberfest like 200 years ago.
Okay.
So this is considered the original Oktoberfest beer. And let me crack this thing open also in bottles here. See if I can get this on the mic. There we go.
Oh yeah, that's nice. I like it.
I think it sounded like I farted in the mic.
Did a little
I'm
bit.
actually opening it.
That's the bottom sound, man. It's all about the farts and the bottles.
Oh yeah. And we'll pour this in our glass. Try not to spill our foam over the edge. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nice and foamy.
Cheers.
Let's take a good cheers, mate. Cheers to you. Cheers to Andrus for recommending this month.
I don't know if he actually picked out this movie though, but like
no, he didn't.
It goes with
but he
the theme.
suggested this month.
That's true.
And we're going to do the rest of his movies too. We promise. Yeah, this is good. I'm sure it loses something by being brewed in Germany and shipped, 2,000 miles away.
Like what?
Or whatever. Well, I'm sure that sitting in a bottle that long in a hot ship.
Does it lose its Wiener Schnitzel?
No, I still got plenty of Wiener Schnitzel.
Oh, okay, good.
But it's good. I mean, it's a good amber color. It's actually kind of reminds me of a Dos Equis amber a little bit.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's good. It's malty, which I prefer. I prefer malty more than hoppy.
Yes.
Anymore. And I just love malty beers, and this is a good one. This is a good one, the Paulaner Oktoberfest.
Nice.
So check it out.
Yeah, check it out. What's the bottle look like?
It's got a little German guy on it.
Oh yeah, what's he doing? Is he cruising?
He looks like he's cruising. He's looking like off the side of the bottle.
Can you imagine?
He's got a beard, curly hair.
Can you imagine if we made a Oktoberfest in collaboration with this movie? Oh, what that bottle would look like?
It would have like leather cop hats.
Yeah, I like some German
handcuffs.
Some German dude holding beer, getting handcuffed.
Yeah,
I guess.
I love in this movie how like there were like dudes like just like had with handcuffs like attached to their like pants for no reason.
Well, yeah, that was the
obviously that is for a reason.
That was the that was a particular night that they were doing.
Oh, right. Okay, I see. All right,
patrol night or something like that. Yeah. Come on, you can have themes.
That was weird at the.
All right.
They had themes. You're right. They did.
Nothing wrong with that. Good old themes there.
No, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with themes.
So, but yeah, like we got two pretty good ones over here. We have some authentic German ones. Yeah, next month, we are going to October, so we might continue the Oktoberfest, but we might switch it around because I did get a nice pumpkin flavored beer that I do want to try. You don't like them pumpkin flavored ones?
I don't like pumpkin flavor anything except pie.
Maybe I'll just like
pumpkin pie.
Maybe I'll announce it like, hey, we're gonna be doing pumpkin flavored beers next month, and so you'll have to drink it.
I won't have to drink anything.
That's true. We might just do a free fall. See which ones we like.
I'll drink my Yingling. I'll drink a Yingling or something just to not drink a pumpkin beer.
Yeah.
If I could get like one pumpkin beer and then drink it to talk about how awful it was, then I might do it. But I'm not buying a 6 or a 12 pack of pumpkin beer.
No, just get your own mix and match. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could just like take them out of whatever package because apparently we just fucking do that.
Hey man,
apparently there's no rules anymore, so fuck it. Whatever.
It was for research purposes. Okay, so it's okay. They won't miss it. It'll be fine. Speaking of not missing, I said missing. Speaking of not missing, let's talk about the history of what was going on.
Let's do it
in the world of the pro wrestling and the metal music around this film's release date. February 15th, 1980. Okay.
Yeah.
We actually have some big news. Actually, this day is actually pretty crazy. Like for like wrestling and metal music. And apparently like videos too. So the first thing I want to talk about, I'll do the wrestling first. Okay. So I try to find this on the YouTube and stuff, and I don't believe this is on the Peacock either. But I try to find this because I know you can find these two wrestlers, like there's a ton of videos you can find of them wrestling each other, but I couldn't find this particular match. But on this date, February 15th, 1980, in Hollywood, Florida, at the Sportatorium in Hollywood, Florida, we have Star Wars 80. Star Wars was like the big show.
WCCW show, right?
Well, yes, they took it over, but they're still they did Star Wars also in Florida too.
Okay.
Yeah, the WCCW took that name over, later on.
Mm-hmm.
According to this, it was Dusty Rhodes versus the NWA World Heavyweight Champion Harley Race in a steel cage match.
Oh, I bet that was amazing.
Yeah. And you can find a bunch of matches. Like, I thought I found this match when I went onto the YouTube, but it was their 2 out of 3 falls match that was in Tampa. And it had this weird promo of like Dusty Rhodes in like a pool, like talking about how he's gonna beat Harley Race. It's pretty funny. But yeah, like apparently Dusty Rhodes won the match by Alison's favorite finish, a disqualification.
Yes, it's the best. There's nothing better than watching an hour-long match and then it ending with the disqualification.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if there's footage of this. Like I said, I try to find it. And like I know it's not on the archives of Peacock because they don't go. No. They don't really do like they don't really. I don't think they have the Florida library. I think somebody else owns the Florida library, like all the Eddie Graham stuff.
Yeah.
So I tried to look on the YouTube for it, and I found a bunch of Dusty Rhodes versus Harley Race matches, but not this particular one, which I really wanted to watch it. But you can find a bunch of them out there if you look. So another part of this card is pretty interesting too. We actually have Mike Graham defeated Fujinami for the International Junior Heavyweight title. All right, and check out this fucking tag team. I mean, I could not believe it when I read this. Andre the Giant and Bill Watts.
Mm-hmm.
The fuck kind of tag team is that? Andre the Giant and Bill Watts defeated Ernie Ladd and Bad Leroy Brown.
I think that makes sense to an extent. So you've got Bill Watts, who was, a big guy in the territory, and you have Andre the Giant. So you got to put Andre with somebody. Because, Andre would often fight 2 people in a handicap match, but Ernie Ladd and Bad News were too big of guys to be able to do that. It wouldn't, that you would believe that those 2 guys would be able to beat him. So, you put him with Bill Watts, and then you have 2 badass guys, and a tag team gets 2 other badass guys. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know, just weird because when we think of Bill Watts, most of the time we think of the promoter for Mid-South.
Yes,
but
right,
he was a pro wrestler for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, yeah, I'm like that with a lot of people. Like it's very hard to imagine Bobby Heenan as a wrestler, but he was. Like I just cannot imagine Bobby Heenan as a wrestler, but he certainly was.
Yeah, very interesting. So like I said, like when we do like 1980, it's kind of hard to find like the actual matches to watch them and review them. We mostly have to talk about them because there's just not a whole lot of like good footage out there. But when there is stuff that lands on footage, we'll obviously watch it when we have the time. But if anybody's out there interested in learning a little bit more about Dusty Rhodes and Harley Race, they do have a very long, steady rivalry through multiple companies. But you can find a lot of their matches. Yes. Like I said, I found their 2 out of 3 falls match on YouTube, and it's pretty good. Like those guys always had really good chemistry with each other.
Well, yeah, I mean Harley Race was just a great wrestler.
He's a great promo too. Like
he was great.
This guy over here, he was like the promo he was on. He was sitting on a chair, right? He was like, "I'm about to face Dusty Rhodes, another something come lately." All right. I was like, "Oh shit, okay." Yeah, he was good. He was a good guy. So. The main stuff I wanted to focus on was probably going to be like the metal music, because we actually have kind of a sad story that happened on this date, February 15th, 1980. And you might know a little bit more about this story than I do, but I'll read it and then you give me maybe some little bit more details on this. So on February 15th, 1980, Bon Scott a vocalist for the band AC/DC, died from alcohol poisoning. All right. And apparently Scott's death came as AC/DC was preparing to record Back in Black, which is obviously their most popular album, all right, of the 80s and beyond. And then they said some of the AC/DC's most well-known songs, including You Shook Me All Night and the title track, became anthems on classic rock radios. Scott's vocals are also remembered for their contributions to other AC/DC classics, such as Highway to Hell, Whole Lot of Rose, and TNT.
Whole Lot of Rosie, yeah.
Rosie, yeah. So very crazy. Pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, so Bon Scott, well, I mean, anyone who knows me knows my love for AC/DC.
Yes.
They're kind of like Motorhead in that all their songs pretty much sound the same. So if you like one of them, you'll probably like all of them. But Bon Scott was just a great rock and roll singer. Like, he was one of the best singers of all time. And, I became an AC/DC fan after Bon Scott died, so Back in Black was the first AC/DC album I ever heard. And I guess they were starting to get songs ready for this album when he passed away. But yeah, Highway to Hell is a masterpiece. Yes. I mean, that's such a great album. And it's kind of, what's the word? Kind of prophetic in a way, because, Highway to Hell is basically about this rock and roll lifestyle that's going to kill you eventually. And, all the drugs and the alcohol, and that's basically what happened to him like 2 years later. But yeah, I mean, it's such a weird thing. Like, he could have, I don't know. He's one of those guys that because he died, he is more famous. He was probably more famous dead than he was when he was alive.
Yeah.
One of those. I mean, AC/DC was a big band, but not as big of a band as they became.
Yes.
And who knows if they would have gotten that big had he not passed away. But it's still it's kind of a sad thing. There's a lot of rumors that he was doing heroin at the time, but I think that mostly that he was just drinking a lot, and he just drank a whole lot, and he went to sleep in a car in the wintertime in England, and he basically just passed away from that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty sad. It's pretty crazy to see what he might have, become if he was stayed in the band. But, obviously AC/DC, one of the most legendary bands, that's out there.
Yeah. And a great Australian band.
Mm-hmm.
Which, there's not, I mean, I don't say there's not a lot of great Australian bands, because there definitely are. But, this is, probably my favorite Australian band, or at least one of my favorite Australian bands.
Yeah, definitely crazy, man. I mean, it's gotten a lot of, it's not like it's very uncommon for a lot of, high-profile musicians to die from alcohol poisoning, drugs, or anything like that. It's just kind of one of the things that come with that fame and limelight. Especially, you could say the same thing about athletes. You could say the same thing about actors and actresses and stuff. So,
yeah, and there's a lot of controversy about it too. Some people say that he died somewhere else and that he was put in the car.
Yeah,
he didn't actually die in the car. Some people say that he was murdered, he was purposely overdosed. It's kind of weird, though, because I don't know. I've never read anywhere that they did a toxicology to find heroin in his system, or at least not enough to kill him. And it's commonly thought of that he basically just died from exposure and just having too much alcohol.
Yeah.
But there is some rumor that he overdosed somewhere else, and they just put him in the car for him to be found.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sad story, man. I mean, it's just one of those things. But moving along a little bit, we do actually have something else in the metal music that I thought was very interesting. That actually came out on this exact date that this movie premiered as well, February 15th of 1980. And that is one of the Iron Maiden. Yes.
Iron Maiden again, my favorite band.
The weekly Iron Maiden talking about what was they doing.
What was Iron Maiden doing this week? Yeah.
But this one I actually think is very fascinating and very interesting. So usually I would save it for like maybe another review, but I thought this was very interesting. So they released their debut single, Running Free, on this date. Great song. All right. Running free. Like, it's basically a chorus song. You know what I mean?
It has a repetitive chorus, but when they play it live though, like the
people
whole
go crazy,
crowd singing along with it, fantastic.
Yeah, they go crazy. I watched a couple of YouTube videos of them playing that song live, and everybody does go a little crazy. So, but
I was gonna say the one from the World Slavery Tour that's like 15 minutes long is amazing, where Bruce is just like having them sing the song back to him over and over and over. It's great, fantastic.
That's cool. But also too, apparently, and I thought this is very interesting too. The single's cover art is famously known as the first official appearance of Eddie.
Oh yeah.
I thought his face is obscure. Yeah. I thought his face is obscure as the band did not want him unveiled until the album's release. But it's basically on here. If you can kind of check it out, he is, you can see like the hand, and you can see like Eddie. He's kind of like in the corner. He's like holding something. It looks like a beer bottle. This actually kind of looks like it's from Cruising. You know what I mean? Got the killer out there finding this guy, chasing him down and stuff. Man, New York and streets must have been crazy back in the day.
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, it was you had no cell phones, so you had like a street culture, and I mean, it's this, it was a kind of wild and crazy time.
Yeah.
It was about to come the 80s, but yeah, I love that cover because it has this guy like running,
away from
basically down an alley.
Yeah.
And then, and then you can see Eddie's looking over his shoulder, and Eddie's chasing him, but Eddie's face is kind of blacked out. You can't quite see what he looked like yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, that must have been amazing to see that cover art as a single, and then you get that, and then a little while later, the album comes out, and then you see Eddie's full face on it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool
for the first time ever. Because I just grew up as Eddie. Eddie being a part of like Iron Maiden's thing, but it would be kind of cool to see it for the first time. To see it before, for the first time with everybody else, where you're like, nobody's ever seen this before. But yeah, they still use Eddie to this day.
Yeah. And I think, usually when we talk about Iron Maiden, we always praise their artwork. But I think that's I think that's like one of the biggest advantage that this band has had, is having some really badass artwork, especially for this time period that we talked about multiple times. In the 80s, you don't just have music videos popping out every 5 seconds and stuff. You got to find your albums and stuff in the store, and what pops out to you is the album cover.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I became an Iron Maiden fan, because I bought Live After Death because of the cover.
Yeah. Which
is weird to think now. Like, it's weird to think that anybody would do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's weird to think anybody would go to a store and buy an album anymore. But if you did go to a store and buy an album, it would be weird to think that you would buy it because of the album cover. And I think that's why album covers have become so boring.
Yeah.
Is because it doesn't matter anymore. It just doesn't matter what's on your album cover anymore. You have to do it because you love it, not because you need to sell metal or sell, music. But, but Maiden is one of those bands that, like you were saying, like they definitely built, not to say they would never have been big if they didn't have the art, but the art definitely helped.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's kind of weird that you would bring this up now because they are, they just announced yesterday, 2 days ago, this being Saturday, the week before this comes out, but they announced 2 days ago, I guess, that a 2025, 2026 tour. Their 2024 tour hasn't even started yet. Well, I guess the Australian shows have, but the tour just started and they've already announced another one, which is going to be kind of a 50th anniversary tour that's based around this album, the Iron Maiden first album, and it's going to be like they're playing songs only from the first 9 Iron Maiden albums, so Iron Maiden to Fear of the Dark. And so it's going to be an all 80s tour. So it's going to be fantastic.
That's pretty cool.
Can't wait for that. But yeah, it's kind of weird though. Those guys, like, they don't rest. They don't take any time off.
No.
Like, much like us, we don't take time off either.
No.
But I just hope that I have the same energy in my 70s that those guys do.
Yeah, I know.
Just to think about, they're doing a world tour. Last year they did a world tour, or they did Europe, and I think they just did Europe and Canada, because I went to Canada to see them. And then this year they're doing Australia, which they just finished, Japan, and the rest of North America and South America. And then I guess they're going to take next winter off, and then they're going to start next winter. They're going to do all of Europe again. And then I presume in 2026, they'll be back over here again. So that's kind of crazy to think that in your 70s, you're still doing world tours.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
What I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I barely have enough energy to finish my week. And, at my age, and they're in their 70s doing
world tours, man.
2.5 hour concerts.
It's pretty wild.
But
hey, man,
yes,
got that rock
so
and roll
Iron
spirit.
Maiden. Cheers to the great Iron Maiden.
Cheers. They probably like a good Oktoberfest here and there.
Oh, I guarantee it. They're good beer drinking lads.
All right, so let's get into who booked this shit.
Who booked this shit?
Some of the history behind Cruisin'. So we have the director William Friedkin. Did I say his name right?
Friedkin. William Friedkin.
William Friedkin.
Yeah.
And he's the one that basically writ and directed this film. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And
based on a book.
Yes, and it's also based on the book, like we're saying, of the novel of the same name, Cruisin', by the New York Times reporter Gerald Walker, about a serial killer targeting gay men, particularly those associated with the leather scene in the late 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the title also is a double entendre, because cruising can describe both police officers on patrol and men who are cruising for some sex.
Yeah, which we saw a lot of that.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of cruising up in here. So, a couple of things about it. Obviously, we were talking about William. He directed The Exorcist. And, obviously, he has a lot of, really good accolades, especially during this time of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
He's already pretty much was a well-respected director going into this movie. And also to the main star that played Steve, Al Pacino. He was also another great respected actor because he was in the Godfather series.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I would say that Pacino is probably one of the greatest actors of all time.
Yes. And this is before he even did Scarface, which is crazy.
Yeah, this is before Scarface.
Which I think is one of his most well-known movies, besides The Godfathers.
Besides The Godfather, I would say so. But yeah, he's been in a lot of great movies, though. I mean, he was in Devil's Advocate.
Devil's Advocate is my favorite one he
Heat.
was in.
Yeah, such a good movie. And Heat.
Yeah,
great
really
movies. Great actor.
Oh, very, definitely. He was good in this one too. He has that he does something that a lot of actors do. Like his body language is like very really good. You know what I mean? Because he can go from 0 to 100 like in a second. And he did that in this movie a couple times.
Yeah, one thing that I really like about him is how he can, actors should be able to do this, but a lot of them don't. Where, like you're saying, like his body language, like he does things that aren't in the script to make what he's doing look natural.
Yeah, for the character he's playing.
Yeah, and he's, from what I understand, he's like a method actor, so he has to get into the role and mentally become that person.
Yeah.
So, which is probably helps him do that a lot, but he's
how many
which is
how many leather
kind of
clubs do you think he visited?
Acting. Oh, probably a bunch. But yeah, he seemed like he knew what he was doing.
Oh yeah. So,
but yeah, such a great actor.
So originally, this movie was poorly received by critics upon release, and then Cruising performed okay at the box office. The shooting and the promotions were, hindered by gay rights protesters who believed that the film stigmatized them.
Which I could kind of see that. I could see how they would think that.
Yeah, I could. Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing that I could see in this film that kind of stigmatized them is that they only go out there looking for sex only.
Right.
Which obviously
And
we know, like, gay people are not all gay people just want sex. You know what I mean? They're like normal people. You know what I mean? So I think that's what the biggest thing I could
right.
see.
They are normal people, but I mean, right. So they have, especially then, a reputation of being like, they don't really care about relationships. They just want to like go out and like look for sex.
Exactly. Which is not true.
But I would, but I would argue that pretty much any young person, at least a young male of any sexual persuasion, going out to a bar on a weekend is kind of just looking for sex.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what I mean? There's plenty of heterosexual clubs where, you know, like with that, you know, that people call meat markets, where they just go and look for people to fuck. So that's not, you know, so people think of that as like something from gay culture, but I mean, that's just something people do. You know what I mean? So I don't think that that's really that unusual, but especially during this time, a lot of, well, I mean, that was like the stereotype for what gay people were, you know what I mean? And I could see how they might be upset a little bit because they would be worried that this would stigmatize them further.
Yeah. So there's a couple people didn't really like the open-ended final as well too.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that either. I don't know if I really 100% understood how this movie ended, but yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. It was kind of confusing because of the way the whole story was going. But a couple things. So on the production side, Philip D. Antonio, who had produced Williams' 1971 film The French Connection, approached
another great Friedkin movie.
The French Connection? I never seen it.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Oh, you should watch it. I mean, The French Connection is a fantastic movie.
So he approached William on the idea of directing a film based on New York Times reporter Walker's, novel Cruising, about a serial killer targeting New York, the gay community. William was not particularly interested in the project, but Philip tried to attach Steven Spielberg, but they're not able to interest a studio. Well, his studio.
Okay.
And I was like reading that, I was like, Steven Spielberg, the guy who did E.T., now does leather gay man sex. Very interesting.
Well, yes, he would go on to do E.T., but he had done Jaws and he had done Duel and some movies that were kind of edgy. So I could sort of see that in a way.
I mean, with this particular script, it is taking a little bit of a kind of, a risk, because the only like during this time period, the only stuff probably that had any kind of gay sex going on was the pornos, I would say. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, he was shopping the book around, right? Because Friedkin wrote the script himself after he was hired.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying, like, when it comes to film-wise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there, unless it was like maybe a historic piece, but I don't think there was a lot of movies around this particular time that, like, showed a lot of the male on male action, or even female action.
Yeah, definitely not a lot of movies that weren't, like you were saying, that weren't like porn films. But William Friedkin actually had made a movie called The Boys in the Band, which revolved around gay characters, and is considered like a milestone in gay movies. So him making this movie doesn't surprise me, because he'd made movies with this kind of theme before.
But apparently, according to this, it was taking him a little while to come on board with the idea, because a few years later, Jerry Weintraub brought the idea back to Friedkin, who was still not interested. However, Friedkin changed his mind following a series of unsolved killings in gay leather bars in the 1970s, and the articles written about the murders by Village Voice journalist Arthur Bell. So apparently there was a bunch of killings in the gay community in the 70s, but they couldn't find the killer at the time. It was very unsolved crimes, which that's what I thought at the beginning of the show. I knew this story had like a basis of truth behind it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So Friedkin also knew a police officer named Randy Judson, who had gone into the same sort of deep cover that Pacino's Steve Burns did to investigate an earlier series of gay murders. Paul Benston, a doctor's assistant who appeared in Friedkin's 1973 film The Exorcist, was implicated but never charged in 6 of the leather bar murders.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting. While being prosecuted for another murder, all these factors gave Friedkin an angle he wanted to pursue in making the film. So then he had Jurgensen and Benston served as film consultants, as did Sonny Grosso, who earlier had consulted with Friedkin on the French Connection.
Mm-hmm.
So Jurgensen and Grosso appeared in bit parts in the film, which I'm not sure what they are because they're not saying. I'm guessing they're probably just some of the detectives that showed up. Because we did have like a lot of unnamed detectives that just like randomly showed up and did stuff.
Right.
In his research, Friedkin worked with members of the mafia. How the hell does that work? Hey.
Well, you know.
Hey, Tony. Can you get me in charge of the mafia members? It's like, well, how am I supposed to do that? It's like, brother, I got Al Pacino on my side. Okay, who do you want? You want the Don? You got the Don. Like, okay.
It's all who you know, man.
So apparently, I didn't know this either. But apparently the mafia owned a bunch of gay bars. All right.
Okay.
So is that like a known thing?
I mean, I didn't know that, but maybe that is kind of a known thing.
So Al Pacino,
and I just don't know it.
So apparently Al Pacino was not Friedkin's first choice for the lead. Richard Gere was. Mm-hmm. Richard Gere. Wait a minute.
That's weird.
The Pretty Woman guy?
You know who? Yes, the Pretty Woman guy.
Interesting.
Which sort of makes sense, in a way, because Richard Gere, around this time, or maybe a little before, or maybe a little after, was in a movie called American Gigolo, which is sort of a edgy sex movie, kind of in a way, that has to do with a murder. So I guess maybe I could kind of see that. But I mean, Pacino is obviously a great choice, a better choice, the best choice. So
apparently he had expressed strong interest in the part, and Friedkin had open negotiations with his agent. But Gere was Friedkin's choice because he believed that Gere would bring in a different quality to the role that Pacino could not. More of a androgynous quality? Androgynous quality, my bad. A little different quality. The film was intended to depict gay cruising as exist at the mine shift. So the mine shift was a members-only BDSM leather bar and sex club for gay men located at, well, it gives you the fucking address. That's like crazy. Yeah. Is it still there? Holy shit.
I don't think it's still there, no.
Dress code. Hold on a second. Oh, they got a fucking sign of this dress code. Okay, check this out. The mine shaft dress code, as adopted by the clubs on October 1st, 1976, cycle leather and western gear, Levi's jocks, action ready wear. What the hell does that mean?
I don't know.
Uniforms, t-shirts, plaid shirts, just plain shirts, club overlays, patches, and sweat. No colognes or perfumes. Interesting.
Okay.
No suit, tie, dress pants. No rugby shirts, designer sweatshirts or tuxedos. No, too bad about this one, Alison. No disco drag. Damn it.
Oh.
Or dresses. Also, no heavy outerwear is to be worn in play. Okay. No heavy outerwear is to be worn in playground. You got that?
I got it.
Don't be wearing
heavy outerwear in the playground.
Don't be wearing that shit in the fucking playground, okay? Interesting. There's nothing about bandanas over here, though.
I know. Well, I think that was like a culture thing. You just had to know. Or you had to go ask Powers Booth at the store that sells.
Very interesting. It's that's not uncommon though. A lot of clubs have rules and shit. You know what I mean? It's very interesting, though.
Well, I did like how this one, though, like tells that basically you can wear anything as long as it's not a tuxedo, a suit and tie dress pants,
yes,
or a dress.
Yeah, or,
you can even wear like sweatpants.
No, we said no sweatpants.
Oh, no sweatpants. Okay,
yes.
All right, no sweatpants.
You can do no rugby shirts, which I'm not sure why. Maybe because they're getting into fights. No designer sweaters.
Yeah.
So no, like Gucci sweaters you have in your closet, Alison. Don't be wearing that shit.
I can't wear that to the mine shaft.
You can't wear tuxedos, all right, and you can't be wearing disco drago dresses.
Right.
So maybe you can wear sweaters.
Yeah, I thought you said you could mention you could wear sweats.
Yeah.
And then you could and I like where it says you can wear just plain shirts. Like, what does that mean?
I guess it's just a white T-shirt. Like the Fonz. If you want to be the Fonz, you're okay to come in this club.
You're okay. Yeah, because you can wear your leather jacket, your Levi's. I like how they specify Levi's as a jeans brand that you can wear.
Come on, brother. Those are the tightest ones,
Well, no, I mean Levi's. Those are the best jeans.
Those are the Hank Hill specials.
Yeah, Levi's, man. That's like classic shit. Like, you could wear Levi's jeans and a T-shirt and go back in time to 1950, and you'd still be in style.
Exactly.
That's how timeless that shit is.
The hardworking man just want to get out there and drink a beer.
Yeah.
All right. So the bar was not named in the movie, okay, because they would not allow it for filming. So scenes from the movie were instead filmed at the... No, this is not real. Oh my God. Okay, hold on a second. This beer is hitting me now because this is... I don't know why this is really funny to me. So we can't film shit at the mine shaft. So we have to go to another bar and film all this Leatherman action at the Hellfire Club.
Yeah.
Straight from Stranger Things, brother. So we know what they did when they grew up from the 80s. They created a gay Leatherman bar.
Well, much like a lot of other things, much like everything that Stranger Things has, it was ripped off from something else.
Do you think they got the Hellfire Club name? Like, do you think the directors like, okay, we're gonna put this gay bar and we're gonna make it like like an inside joke thing?
Well, no. So the Hellfire Club name came from a Victorian club in London.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't like a physical. It was like a society. It was called the Hellfire Club. And then that's where the physical club got its name. And then that's where Stranger Things took the name from as well.
Interesting.
There's also a Hellfire Club in X-Men, which is based around the London club and that kind of thing. So
apparently there was a lot of regulars from the mine shaft who appeared as extras in the film. And then they were seen shots in the streets and other locations near the mine shaft. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And additionally, Pacino, he also visited the mine shaft. Like you're saying, he's very method actor. So he also did that while he was researching his role.
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So let's talk about the rating. So originally they gave it an X rating, brother. All right, too much for everybody in the 80s.
Too much gay stuff, I guess.
I'm surprised this movie isn't out today. You know what I mean? Like, everybody would fucking love this movie today.
I think you're fucking wrong about that.
You don't think so?
No, you couldn't make a movie like this today. If you made if a movie came out like this today, like, all these fucking dipshit conservatives would lose their fucking minds.
That's true.
They would talk about how,
there's even had big actors at the time.
Yeah, we're bringing the end of the world because we're showing gay sex on film. Like, people would lose their fucking minds if you put something like that.
Can you believe that though? Like, it's crazy to think that though, because compared to the 80s, the gay lifestyle is a lot more open. Like, we all know more about it. You know what I mean? And more accepting, obviously.
But it's the normies that would go crazy about it. And that's what I keep saying. Like, people talk about how depraved we are now, and how back in the day everybody was just so more conservative and buttoned down and nice and wholesome, and that's all bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, half of the movies that we talk about couldn't be made today. Because if they did, you couldn't make a Nightmare on Elm Street today.
Oh yeah, no.
Like you have probably to make a watered down remake. Like you couldn't make that today. People would lose their fucking minds.
Exactly.
If you made Last House on the Left today the way it was made then, people would lose their fucking ever loving minds. Like you couldn't do it. Like it would be protested and like people get death threats and all kinds of shit like that. There's no way.
I think the closest movie that's a big time that I could think of that pushes the limits might be Terrifier.
I was going to bring that up. Probably Terrifier, which the whole purpose of Terrifier is to push limits.
But that's mostly for like the gore aspect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have like the well, there's kind of a story, but it doesn't really have like the realistic like shock value, like something like this would have. So they gave it. So apparently, Friedkin claims he took the film before the MPAA board 50 times at a cost of $50,000 and deleted 40 minutes of footage from the original cut before he secured an R rating. All right. So he showed them like 50 times this film. Like, okay, is it okay now for an R rating? Yes. Well, which part did I have to take out? Well, you just can't show the whole fisting. You got to imply that he's getting fisted. I guarantee you that was the scene that they fucking took out.
That scene, yeah. Like, well, supposedly he cut out 40 minutes of footage, according to Friedkin. Yeah. He cut 40 minutes out of this movie and got an R rating. But which, he's said sometimes in some interviews that it didn't change the plot at all. And sometimes he says that there was a much darker, twisty plot that he had to cut out because of the rating. But usually, though, I think that story is ridiculous because usually when they're talking about cutting to get an R rating, they're talking about cutting seconds out of a movie. You know what I mean? They're cutting 40 seconds out, and that's
what cut half the fucking movie. 40 minutes.
But yeah, he cut out like a third of the movie.
It was already almost 2 hours.
Movie. Yeah, it's an hour and 40 minutes. Another 40 minutes would have made it 2 hours and 20 minutes. So he cut out nearly a third of it. But
so according to Friedkin, though, he considered an entry of the footage from the club. So basically, the stuff he cut out was footage from the clubs in which portions of the film were shot and considered of absolutely graphic sexual nature. That material showed the most graphic homosexual, but with Al Pacino watching, and with the implying that he may be participating in that. And then in some discussions, Friedkin claims that the missing 40 minutes had no effect on the story of the characters, but in other, he states that the footage created mystery twists and turns, which the film no longer takes.
Right.
Maybe like it was showing. I think probably what they did was they took a lot of the Al Pacino's character maybe becoming more involved in that lifestyle than we saw.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, because the original book, I haven't read it, but the research I did on the book, is that the difference, the difference between the book and the movie was that in the book, the cop becomes more involved with the neighbor.
Oh, okay.
Like more of a romantic relationship with the neighbor. Like he kind of becomes more interested in being gay, I guess you could say, than Al Pacino puts across in this movie. Because in this movie he would just kind of go away and fuck Karen Allen and then go back to the investigating the
and it was weird, and like that scene was weird when he confronted Gregory. All right, that was Ted's lover, and how he was all pissed off that Ted wasn't there or something, because we never really saw we saw that they were friends, but we didn't really see that they were like lovers or nothing.
Right, but and that scene sort of implied that they are, or they might have been. Gregory was played by young James Remar, which was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, and apparently the additional footage also had some of the suspicion that Al Pacino's character, Steve, may himself have become a killer more clear. And that the missing footage made the films, basically kind of put that more into light, that he may became like a killer over time.
Okay.
So apparently when Friedkin sought to restore the missing footage from the film's DVD release, he discovered that United Artists no longer had it. And he believes that the United Artists destroyed it. Some obscure sexual activity remains visible in the film has released, and Friedkin intercuts a few frames of gay pornography into the first scene in which a murder is, happening.
Yeah.
So the movie represents the only film soundtrack work by the punk rock band The Germs.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up, that the punk songs in it are by the Germs, which are a fantastic LA punk band, like one of the first hardcore bands. And this would be, well, like it says here, the only soundtrack, but Darby Crash, the singer of the Germs, would die at the end of the year. So this was like the last year of his life as well. And the end of the Germs career, essentially. But yeah, it's kind of cool to hear the Germs in a mainstream movie soundtrack.
Yeah, they also go ahead.
I was gonna say this is back when punk rock was dangerous.
Yeah.
We're not talking about like
very
Green
underground
Day and shit.
This is like there's a lot of punk rock in this film because punk rock was very underground, just like gay was, and leathers and stuff.
Yeah.
So very, makes, we talk about a lot. Hell, we probably could have saw Dawn of the Dead, or not Dawn of the Dead. What's that? We probably saw the New York Ripper. Probably would have played at one of these places that they were visiting
sure.
to. So there was a little controversy about a lot of the gay community not liking this, the gay rights, and then Friedkin is saying listen, it wasn't supposed to be the whole gay community as a whole. It's like a certain section of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not what mainstream America is going to think. I can see why they would be upset because, Mr. and Mrs. Red, White, and Blue Apple Pie who live in Indiana or whatever are going to see this at their local, movie theater and think, oh, well, that's what gay people are like. You know what I mean? So I can see how they would be upset about this.
Yeah. So I didn't really realize that Friedkin and Al Pacino really didn't get along. Because Friedkin said that he was disappointed with Al Pacino's lack of professionalism during the shoot, claiming that he was often late and didn't add any ideas to the character or film. On the other hand, Al Pacino has said that, Friedkin didn't let me know how to interpret the end of the film, saying, am I the killer at the end of the picture, or have I gone gay? To this, I don't know, because Friedkin never told me how to play my final scene. So, and apparently
it's interesting. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's interesting that Friedkin would talk about somebody being unprofessional when this is the same guy who would bring guns to the set of The Exorcist and shoot them off to scare the actors, to make the actors look scared on film. You
gotta create the mood.
You gotta do what you gotta do, right?
All right. In his autobiography, Friedkin says that a single shot can change the whole plot of a movie when talking about cruising, implying that the ambiguous ending might have been planned from the start. However, some elements of the movie do suggest that Burns might be the killer, like a scene at the beginning showing him wearing the killer's cap, and the fact that Richards doesn't attack first, and that Barnes stabs him. Furthermore, the killer is said to be singing a nursery rhyme before he kills, and Burns is the only person who sings one in the movie. Oh.
That's true. So I thought that was really, well, we'll talk about it when we talk about the movie, but I thought that was really weird where they're talking about the nursery rhyme, but then they don't really go back to that, but then Burns is singing a nursery rhyme in the movie.
Yes. And then, of course, like I said, we had a bunch of, a lot of the gay community, New York City's gay community protesting the film. And Al Pacino said that he understands the protests, but insists that upon reading the screenplay, he never at any point felt the film was anti-gay. He said that the leather bars were just a fragment of the gay community, the same way the mafia is a fragment of Italian-American life, referring to The Godfather, and that he would never do anything to harm the gay community. So
yeah.
There is something that apparently this movie was semi-linked to a hate crime. So in the 1995 documentary, The Celluloid Closet, adapted from Vito Russo's book of the same name, and Vito Russo is apparently like a very historian on gay rights in movies. He said that Ron Newsburner, screenwriter for Philadelphia, says he and his boyfriend were threatened while violenced by a group of men who claimed that cruising was their motivation. So
that's weird. But yeah, I guess people are crazy. They were crazy then, and people are crazy now.
So apparently 2 months after the film's release, a bar prominently displayed in the movie came under attack by a man with a submachine gun, killing 2 patrons and wounding 12 others. Friedkin refused to comment on the attack. This attack, which occurred on November 19th, 1980, 9 months after the film was released, was carried out by Ronald K. Crimpley, formerly an officer with the New York City Transit Police. He first shot 2 people outside of some outside of the bar with the Uzi, then walked a few blocks where he shot into a group of men standing outside the ramrod. In total, he shot 8 people, 2 whom died. Crimpley was said to have told the police officer after his arrest, "I'll kill them all. The gays, they ruin everything." He was found, yes, he said, we're strange. He was found not responsible by reasons of mental disease or defect and spent the rest of his life at a psychiatric hospital, dying in 2005 at the age of 73. The New York Times covered the incident at the time of the attacks and revisited it into 2016 following the Pulse nightclub massacre. These articles do not mention cruising or Friedkin. So very interesting. So another one, the brutal 1981 murder of gay Sinman man Gerald Cuthbert, following a sexual liaison, was linked to the films in media reports. It was claimed that Cuthbert, who was stabbed more than 60 times, had befriended American sailors, and according to one newspaper article, U.S. sailors were shown cruising on board a naval vessel docked in Sydney the night of the murders. Police were unable to confirm this, and the crime has never been solved. So it's one of those things where obviously that particular lifestyle people, they have a lot of hate towards them, and we've seen hate crimes, happen, even to this day when it comes to some of those crimes, which is always horrible. But it's one of those things where a lot of times it's either the media or the person will link it to a certain, it's kind of like when we did the, what was that movie that they linked to school shootings? There was a particular movie they linked that to. I just forgot what it's called.
I can't think of that.
Yeah, but we've seen that over time that a lot of the news they'll link certain events to they watched it in this movie and that's how they came up with the.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just an excuse, right? I mean, it's just,
pretty much.
I saw cruising, so now I have to go kill gay people. I mean, how does that make any sense?
Yeah, buddy, I say let's get into it. Let's get into cruising.
Let's do it.
How would you like to disappear?
Disappear?
Go undercover.
You know this man?
Who's here? I'm here. You're here.
These victims are all the same physical type.
What about him, Skip?
Late 20s, 140, 150 pounds. Dark hair, dark eyes.
Have you ever seen him before?
I want to send you out there to see if you can attract this guy.
How, where?
A New York City detective in search of a killer is about to disappear into the night.
Is it dangerous?
I can't talk about it.
How do you know you're going to end up the same person when it's over?
odyssey to the edge of city life.
Bartenders are starting to give me some information. There's this name keeps popping up all the time. There he is. The one with the hat.
Is that the one that followed you?
Yeah.
Why didn't you go with him?
I don't know. I think you should check him.
If you want to play, I'll play with you.
He's the wrong guy.
Prints don't match.
What he sees,
Who's here?
what he feels,
I don't think I can do the job, Captain. I don't think I can handle it.
I'm here.
There's just stuff going down. I don't think I can deal with it.
You here?
what he experiences. What he discovers will change his life forever. Al Pacino.
Who's here? I'm here. You're here.
Cruising.
All right. So we start off the film showing New York City.
Yes.
And there's a boat coming around. So one of the first things I want to say is, this movie is definitely like a serious movie. You know what I mean?
It is.
And like it has a serious subject matter. And, me and Alison, we like to have fun on here. Because, we come on here, we talk about horror movies. We like to have a good time. But there was, just like any movie, we judge all movies the same. Even if they're serious or non-serious. Okay? Yeah. There is some funny parts in this movie.
There are.
Okay? So we're not, we're not laughing at a sub-genre of people or nothing in this movie or nothing like that. We're not doing it like that. I'm just saying there's some funny parts of this movie, especially when that big black dude came out and slapped the fuckers. That was like the best scene. We'll get there. Okay? Come on now. Who did not laugh at that scene? I know I did. Okay? But this is a very serious movie. You know what I mean? Very serious tone. So, just saying. Just like in every movie, there's some funny parts.
Yes.
All right. So now we see we're in the more of a dirty section of New York. Okay. We have some, I wrote in my notes, well, before this happened, we have a ginger guy smoking and he sees basically an arm in the lake. And then they bring the arm
in the
river, and they bring it over to the doctor, and he's like, okay, this arm might match this torso that we brought in, and he's going over saying like, hey, we might get some fingerprints off this. We'll figuring out who's been killing all these bodies, and the cop is basically saying like, well, I don't really have like any evidence. There's no proof in this stuff. It could be a suicide. The doctor's like, people don't really like suicide like this.
Usually people don't cut themselves up when they suicide.
And the doctor was bringing up a good point, saying like, hey, there's just because they're not killing, freaking, Mary down in her rich mansion. Why are we not looking into this? This is a problem. We're getting all these body parts in here, and it's like I feel like you guys are just not helping. That's what the doctor was saying at the beginning. Like it's just all a numbers game to all of you. All right. Right. And so the doctor's like, well, if I don't have proof or anything, I can't do more of an investigation, so I got to leave it unsolved, basically. So now the doctor puts or the mortician guy puts all the body parts in something called a CUPPI, a circumstance undetermined pending police investigation. That's what that means.
Nice. Yeah, CUPPI. Cuppy. So
now we have these cops out here and driving around New York. All right, and this cop he's saying, "Can't believe she left, man. She's gonna make a fool of me. 10 years. She took the kids to Florida." And these other cops like, "Yeah, they're all scumbags." And they're saying this all like creepy and shit, like like they're bad. They're basically seem like they were dirty cops. So then these dirty cops go talk to these streetwalkers that were on the cross-dressing side.
Yeah.
Is that the right way to say it?
Sure.
Okay. So that's what they were doing. And they were giving them shit for no reason, basically. Just trying to harass them. And they eventually tell them, like, hey, just come with us, get into the car. Which it's kind of weird. Like, they didn't, like, do anything. But they tell them to get to the car. And, like, one of them says, I can't get busted this time. I got to make the money. So they're in the car. And now they're saying that they are coke suckers.
Yeah.
Coke suckers. Coke suckers and caulk suckers.
I think that what they're trying to do is they're kind of like making fun of them and kind of like also telling them that they want them to suck the cops want them to suck their dicks.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So basically harassing them, and then the one cop's like, hey, do you want to see my nightstick? Move your ass up here. All right, and then we see that, and then we cut to the private club 837.
But before we get there, so the two patrolmen one was played by Joe Spinell, who played the Maniac in Maniac.
Yes, crazy.
And the other one was portrayed by Mike Starr, who's a famous kind of character actor that you've seen in a million things.
Yes, very interesting. And they play really great. They play great sleazy bad cops.
Yeah.
So now we're in the Leatherman's Club with a bunch of scenes. There's man-ass, there's gimps, there's then we have two guys talking about cigarettes, and this is when we meet one of the characters on here, the actor. It's Lauren Lucas. All right, he's the actor guy in here, and basically he's picking up a leather dude. And they start making a little eye contact with each other. They start flirting with each other a little bit. And then they go to the St. James Hotel.
Yes, the same hotel from Maniac.
Very interesting. So this and Maniac have a lot of... Yes.
Yeah, Maniac was filmed in the St. James Hotel.
Interesting.
And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the St. James Hotel is still there, and you can stay in it if you want to.
No shit, for real?
It's been updated, so it's much classier now than it was. But it's still a pretty good, affordable place to stay in New York City, and it's in a good location if you want to stay there.
I'd be like, do y'all know what was filmed around here?
Can I get the Maniac room?
Yes. Can I get the cruising room?
Yeah.
They're like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, let me show you.
Let me show you.
Well, actually, I
guarantee you they know.
Yeah. So now the Lorex guy, Lucas, he is now in his male sex gear.
Sure. That's what we'll call it.
The straps, I think it's on. And the other leather guy watches. And I guess he takes some drugs. And then they start, getting it going. And then shit. They cut to a bunch of pro wrestling magazines on the floor. I was like,
well,
I knew it.
That kind of makes sense.
That makes sense, yes. Even though like the 80s didn't really have like the big muscular dudes, you know what I mean? Maybe like Billy Graham.
No, but you did have big meaty guys rolling around on a mat with each other. So it's similar in a way.
Similar, yeah.
Yeah. My notes for the bar basically just say man walks into a bar full of people dressed like Rob Halford.
Well, and Eddie Murphy. I mean, not, Eddie
Murphy?
No, not Eddie Murphy. I just lost his name.
Eddie Mercury.
Eddie Mercury.
That's who you're thinking of.
Yes. But they all look like him.
Wow.
And the Fonz. Ron Howard, Eddie Mercury, and the Fonz, all in the same room.
Weird.
So now the Lauren, he wakes up. All right. And he sees the other guy. He's like, hey, man, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just looking for cigarettes.
Yeah.
Were you scared or something? He's like, no, I'm not scared. And then the guy starts talking to him a little bit. And then he eventually pulls out a knife. He's like, you should be scared. And he's like, well, fuck, I'm scared now. And he's like super nervous. and then like the guy's like putting a knife all around him, and then he turns around and he ties him up, and the guy's like, you know, basically freaking out. They can't really do a lot because he already took a bunch of. I guess he took a bunch of downers because he was pretty, pretty immobile. He couldn't really do a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And then the guy starts singing. Okay. And then he's like, "Hey, you know, you make me do this to you." You know, and then he stabs him about like 4 times. So, but definitely pretty creepy. You know what I mean? Like all the realistic like tying up and stabbing and stuff always freaks me out.
Yeah, one thing that annoyed me a little bit about this movie was I hated, and I'll bring it up again because we'll talk about it. It'll come up again, but I hated the way all the redubbing sounded in this movie. Like you could clearly tell that, like when the killer's talking in this scene, that it was voiced over. Yeah. Like, you know, like he's not in the room speaking and it just didn't sound natural. And there's a scene I'll point out when we get to it later on where they switched from voiceover to actual in room sound, and you can clearly tell a difference. But I'll point it out later on. But yeah, that kind of annoyed me. I hated the way this sounded, but other than that, that's a minor gripe.
So now we have the mortician guy talking to the chief about the dead body they have in front of him, the Lauren Lucas. Yeah. And they're talking about how they found some sperm on him, but there's no semen inside the sperm. So he probably has some sort of deficiency when it comes to that. And he was showing the different ways they stabbed. Like the one stab was surprising, but the other one was trying to resist it. All right?
Yeah.
And it looks like a lot of this killing was basically very similar to the other bodies that they've been finding. One of the cross-dressers from the previous night showing a bunch of pictures. They knew anybody there. The person knew everybody in those pictures, and then they wanted some more information from him, but he didn't really have any. But then he wanted to have a private time with the chief, and he was trying to tell the chief like, "Hey, you got like these 2 cops over here like harassing me all the time. Can you do something about it?" And the chief's like, "Well, what's their names? What's their badge numbers?" And he's like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Okay, well, what do you want me to do? Bring you down to the investigation, room and, try to do internal affairs on them until you get proof and stuff. We're not going to help you." It's like, come on, man, you got to owe me this favor. So it's showing like the sheriff doesn't want to believe that he has dirty cops basically on his staff. That's what it sounds like to me.
The captain, he's a captain.
The captain, yes.
Played by Paul Sorvino.
Yeah. Great actor.
So did I understand this correctly? So what I got out of this was like one of the cross-dressers is like a cop informant.
Yes.
Like he's working with the police. He's not there to turn them in, the cops in. He's there because they're asking him about these murders.
Yes.
And he just happened to have happened the night before. Mm-hmm. So that's why he's trying to tell Paul Sorvino's character about it, yes. Right? Okay, I got you.
Yeah, Captain Edelson.
Edelson, yes.
So now Edelson brings in Al Pacino, and his name in this film is Steve Burns.
Steve Burns.
And the first, I could not believe this, but he was like, Steve Burns, like, well, why did you bring him in here? Stuff. I was like, well, I got this important case that only, we sought you out to do. Have you ever sucked a man's dick before? All right. Imagine that job interview.
Shit you can't say today.
And I don't know what this means. Maybe I need a dictionary of terms or something.
Probably.
Have you ever let a man smoke your pork?
Wow. I'm gonna guess that means the same thing.
Well, why would he say dick suck and then smoke your pork?
I don't know. I don't know why, but that sounds like it might be the same thing to me.
So, first Steve was like, "Oh man, you fucking with me?" And he's like, "No, I'm dead serious." All right. And he basically saying, remember, he basically shows him the dead bodies. Okay.
Yeah.
Lauren Lucas, Eric Rossman, one of them, I think Eric was the teacher, and Lauren was like the actor. And they're showing up dead, and they're having all these body parts. And basically, what the chief wants Steve Burns to do is he wants him to go undercover in the leather bars. And the reason that they picked him out is because what he looks like is what the killer was going after. 5 to 6 foot male, dark hair, dark eyes, tan skin. He basically fits the profile. So
yeah,
that's why the captain picked out Steve, is because he fit the profile on that way. And eventually Steve agrees because he's basically going to be the captain's right-hand man, and that will give him a better promotion, and he would skip patrol and go straight to detective.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that's what he was telling his wife Nancy. It's like, that's why I'm doing this particular job, and he can't really talk about the job with Nancy. He's like,
and all I have to do is let somebody suck my dick.
Yes, all I gotta be is a leather man out there,
apparently.
brother. All right, I can skip this promotion. All right, and then this didn't go anywhere too well. Actually, I will give them credit. If you watch this film a couple times, you can see some hints that Steve Burns might be the killer, because it does show a scene where his dad calls.
Yeah, right.
So,
and it's interesting to me that he looks exactly like the killer looks. I mean, that can't be unintentional, right?
Yeah, pretty similar. So Steve now gets into his apartment, and he checks into his apartment, his new apartment that he's gonna be doing his undercovering with. He finds a bunch of gay porn, and he throws out the magazines, and then he runs into Ted Belly, his neighbor. Ted says, "Hey, don't be throwing those magazines in the trash. The landlord likes to collect them and resell them." All right.
Weird.
And then he invites him to a coffee shop, and they both go to the coffee shop. And Ted basically says that he is he's kind of like a writer, so he writes a lot of stuff. And he has a roommate too, that's a dancer. All right. And then of course, Steve gives him a fake name of who he is. I think it was John. All right, John something, and he's just going over like, "Oh yeah, I'm from the Bronx and everything, and I'm just moving down here for like work and stuff. I quit my job. I'm coming down over here to look for work." And then they go over some of the killings that's happening around the town. All right, and then Ted is even saying like, "Yeah, these killings got me scared of cruising." All right.
Yeah.
And then Ted also says like, "Hey, I also heard that there was another murder that wasn't in the newspaper as well too. It happened 5 months ago, and the person was all chopped up to pieces." All right. He says detectives came down there and did nothing. So like I said, a big theme of this was the police not until it got into the limelight of it being election year, nobody was really caring about this.
And the cops don't care.
They don't care about this subgenre of people.
Yep.
So now, Steve is now doing his first cruising, figuring out the lifestyle of the cruising. So we have him down there, and I wrote in my notes like, this is when I figured out that everybody looked like Freddie Mercury around here. And then now Steve wanders off into the bandana shop.
Yes.
If I may.
And we get our first lesson about bandanas.
Yes. Here's the lesson. If you get a light blue one in your left back pocket, you want a blowjob.
Right.
And your right one, you give one. All right? And then if you have a green one, the left side means you're a hustler, which I'm not really sure what that means, hustler. Like, does that mean you want like multiple men? I have no idea.
I think a hustler means that that you're you want to be paid for sex.
Okay, and the right
is it?
Yeah, the right one you're a buyer, so you're buying the sex.
Right. So what I got that meant was that if you're a hustler, if you're like trying to like get men to pay you to fuck them, and then otherwise you're a buyer. Yeah, that's what I got out of it.
So now we have apparently Steve's favorite one, and maybe there's a couple listeners out there that like this one too. We have the yellow bandana. The left side means you take golden showers. The right side means you give the golden showers.
Yeah, so basically either pee on people or people pee on you. So,
I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nothing wrong with a nice little bath. Golden.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
I don't judge anybody for what they want.
And then
I don't expect them to judge me.
And then we didn't even hear what the red one was, which I couldn't possibly believe what that was.
Yeah, Pacino already given up by that point. He's like, I gotta go. He's like, I've had enough of this. I have too much stimulation. I've got to get out of here.
So he didn't want to know about that. And then we have more punk rock and leather scenes going around there. Sweaty dudes everywhere.
Sweaty.
And then like there's like a lot of like dudes like looking at Steve like pissed off. And then this was like, okay, this wasn't, this was comedy right here. Okay, it's semi-funny. So Steve is there, and he has a yellow bandana in his left pocket.
Yeah.
All right? That means he's ready for the piss.
He is. Of all ones to pick, that's the one he does
exactly.
To jump in head first.
Head first, brother. He picked the piss one right away.
He did, yeah.
So this guy comes over and is like, hey, man, you in the water sports? And he's like, no, man, I like to watch. And this guy, you never seen him more pissed off, dude. If you like to fucking watch, take off that hank out of your pocket. This is only for real pissers.
Did he say that, real pissers?
No, he should have.
Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of pissed too, brother. I mean, you're telling me you want to get pissed off.
He just had a lesson about what the hankies mean.
Yeah.
Like, why is this happening? Like, like, whatever.
I wonder if Hacker Sportser was gonna be I'm talking about piss while I'm drinking their beer.
I don't know, maybe. Can you imagine like if they were like a sponsor for the show and then they were like,
that would have been hilarious. All right,
Hanker Spore, like the best beer to drink while you're being pissed on.
Just don't forget your yellow hanky.
It looks kind of like piss when you pour it out.
It's great beer. Everybody, come on.
Great beer.
All right, so we get a lot of montages of Steve working out, going to a lot of clubs and stuff, because, he's doing his undercover work now. He's getting more into it.
Absolutely.
Then I literally put my notes, the dude from Maniac shows up.
Yes.
All right, I was like, shit, there he is. I guess I didn't notice him at the beginning in the beginning scene, but I did notice him.
Yeah, no, he's in the car with Mike Starr for sure.
And he starts staring at Steve, and Steve goes with the younger guy.
Yeah.
All right, and they go to the they're in the 712 club, and this is when this is when Steve. This is like another day. Steve meets with the chief, and he said he got some information from the bartender. All right, about this guy named Tom Canvas, aka Tommy the Joker. And Chief's like, I already know who this guy is. You don't know who he is? He's like, no, I never heard of him. He's like, well, I can't pursue him. I was like, why? He's like, don't worry about it. That's my business. So we never figured out what Tommy the Joker was all about. Okay? Maybe Tommy the Joker. The only thing I could think of, Tommy the Joker maybe was like that informant. Something I could think of.
Maybe. Yeah, could be.
So we see more cruising. Everybody, if you want to take a drink, every time I say cruising, there's a lot of that in here.
Cheers.
So now we're in the park. All right. Yeah. And this one cruiser guy who kind of looked like somebody from the Ramones. All right. Finds the killer, and they agree to have some sex in the park. Okay. So they just walk up in the park, and the killer is now saying some, stuff and doing his little singing, and we can hear that he's like singing a little bit, and then we can hear like, you made me do this to you, and then the guy who looks like he's from the Rhodes gets stabbed, and we have a negative scene that returns to the retro blood. I like it. And then while this is happening, Steve has sex with his wife. So, is the killer
Are they married?
Really? Well, I thought they were married. Nancy, he has sex with Nancy.
Yeah, Karen Allen. Before she was in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes. So
She would be in Raiders last.
As I'm reading my notes over here, it does kind of imply that Steve might have been the killer because, you never know. So next morning, Steve and Nancy, they're hanging out, and Steve was like saying, like, don't ever, lose me and stuff. And then we cut to a scene. We have Ted and Steve rocking around, and they're now Ted is talking about his boyfriend Greg. All right, or Greg wants him to forget about his writing and get a real job.
Yeah. So
apparently that Greg and me have a lot in common when it comes to certain things. So
better watch it.
So now, they're also talking about how he's basically, the Greg was giving Ted like an autumn, like kind of like basically tell him to work basically and forget his dreams, even though Ted was so close of finishing up his play that he was working on.
So close.
And Steve is like basically, listen, man, I don't really know how to help you. And Ted's like, you know exactly what to do. I was like, no, he doesn't. He just said he didn't know what to do.
No, I think he knows.
What is the night on the town gonna help?
I think that a smoking the pork session might make him feel better.
How's that gonna help out his play and his bills?
No, I don't know.
He needs what Ted needs to do is he needs to grab one of those green bandanas and start being a hustler out there. Come on.
He needs to get a real job. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, a real job. That's a job right there, brother. There you go.
All right.
So now we have Steve. He's now cruising. Everybody drink. At the leather club again. And apparently it's cop night over here.
Yeah.
Because we see all kinds of... everybody, they're just copping it all up, brother. This might have been the fisting scene, but I'm not exactly sure yet.
I think it was, yeah.
So there's this guy that comes up to Steve. He's like, listen, man, you have the wrong attitude for tonight. So we're going to need you to leave. This is precinct night, brother.
It's so complicated. This whole subculture is so complicated.
Yeah, it is kind of, there's a lot of rules.
There's a whole lot of rules.
Like, I'm not a rules guy, brother. I'm going to go in there and have a good time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I can't wear this because it's cop night.
Yeah.
Where I can't wear my cowboy hat because it's cop night.
I mean, was it on the poster? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we're just not club dudes. You know what I mean?
I'm definitely not a club dude for sure. I'm a bar dude.
So we have there's some weird dude that's now following Steve. And we're going to find out this guy's name is Skip Lee.
Skip Lee.
So Skip Lee wants to cruise with Steve, but Steve turns him down. And then he goes back home and has more sex with Nancy. Steve does. I guess, those coppers got him all wet and wild. All right. So Steve is, he's looking, he's also, too, when he's looking a little out there. Like, you can see that he's, the job is getting to him now. So now we're in downtown New York. It's all packed up. We see sheens of New York being, I see another thing has changed with the traffic. We see the stores closing, and there's like this guy who's talking about this dinner date he needs to go on and this photo shoot, but he has to do something first. Okay, before he does that. And what he does is he goes to a leather club.
Yeah.
And we have some more punk rock music happening at this leather club. The leather killer comes in dressed in his full... The leather, by the way, has the full gear. He has the whole outfit. He has the leather pants, the leather jacket, and the hat and the gloves.
Yeah.
So he's full about it. All right. They take him into a room, and I didn't realize this was like a thing, but apparently according to this movie, I could be completely wrong about this stuff, but according to this movie, the leather S&M guys, they get off on smelling leather jackets. I mean, I kind of do too.
I did not know that, but
I mean, I kind of do too.
The smell of leather's pretty nice.
It is nice. You know what I mean? Gets you a little horny. You know what I mean? Smelling a leather jacket.
I'm not going to go that far, but I'm just saying my leather jacket smells nice.
Oh, that's very good. So he's smelling his jacket, and then the guy's going. You know, he's getting the smoked pork, if you know what I mean. And then the killer stabs him while the movie is going on, and he kills the guy. And of course, the big line every time the killer stabs somebody, he says, "You made me do that." You know, very serial killer aspect when it comes to that.
Yeah. Also, the guy that played Skip Lee, I believe, was also in Hellhole.
Oh, okay. His name is Jay Abragon.
No, not that guy. Sorry.
Somebody different.
Strike that.
Strike it, brother.
That's a fact coming up later.
So now Steve is back at his apartment, and he can hear Ted and Greg yell, and he can't stand it at all. Noisy fucking neighbors, bro. I feel you. God, yep. It could be annoying. So now Chief Berman, he's okay. So the chief, okay, Berman requested that Captain Edelson come to his office, and this is when we get the Berman, who's like the chief, saying, "Hey, the gay community's got my ass about this, and I hired you for this task force to clean this up right away because it's Democrat election season coming on, okay? Right. And we need those votes, so I need you to clean this up quickly, or else I'm going to find somebody who will."
Yeah.
And he leaves. So we could see what this, when it comes to the corporate, or not corporate, like when it comes to the government officials or what they're looking for, their votes. They don't care about the gay men's
aspect.
Yes,
exactly.
So they basically
don't care about getting to the truth. Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of that, that's like something that's been talked about with law enforcement for years. Is they have a metric and they've got to solve a percentage of cases, and if they can find a way to pin it on this person who's dead or whatever, then sometimes they do. Not to say it always happens.
Yes.
Or even most of the time, but it does sometimes happen.
And then after this, the captain did talk to. Hold on a second. Okay, so during this, the captain actually has some good news now, and he actually has a fingerprint. So they have a fingerprint now,
which they got from the coin, right?
Yes, the coin. Yes.
Yeah. Did we talk about how they got that though?
No.
Okay. So the guy was killed in the movie theater.
Oh, right? Yes. The coin that he played the movie on. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, or it's not a movie theater, but it's like a sex peep show type thing.
The peep show house, yes.
Yeah, and then he that's how they got the coin, because the killer put the coin with blood all over it inside the thing to make you think that, surely he would know, right? That it would leave a fingerprint or there would be blood on it. So it makes you think that he did it on purpose, possibly to try and convict someone who wasn't guilty. But that might come up again later in the plot.
There you go. So Steve does more cruising at the low spot. This is
I think
when
he's really getting into this.
Who?
Steve.
Oh yeah, he loves the cruising spots. I mean, he's hardcore about his work.
Yeah, he's really into it, and then he goes home and fucks the shit out of Karen Allen to show that he's still heterosexual.
Yeah,
common problem with people like that.
So
anyway.
I think what maybe made Steve turn is he saw this dude fisting this guy. Very intense. All right.
That was kind of crazy. A little bit.
So so basically also Steve is also here too because he's also following Skip around. And
go ahead.
Then, Steve asked one of the guys in the club about Skip, and he's saying, "Oh, the guy's a scumbag. He pulled a knife on somebody a little while ago. So stay away from him. He's a scumbag."
Yes.
And then we have a Gimp watches the whole thing.
Yeah. I was a little bit concerned, if you will, during the fisting scene, because the guy that was doing the fisting was like lubricating his arm all the way up to his elbow.
Yeah.
Which my question is, like, how far up this guy's ass was he going to put his hand? Like, how far does it go? I don't know.
I'm not sure either. But I don't know.
I mean,
he was grabbing on something.
That can't be. I mean, I'm not going to judge anybody's lifestyle, and I don't expect them to judge mine. But that can't be good for you, right? That just can't. It can't be.
Well, you know, maybe. You know what I mean? Get the stuff out.
I don't
maybe
know.
You'll feel like a new man afterwards.
Maybe, yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
So very interesting. Though I don't really know too much about stiffing. All right, so fisting, whatever it is. But yeah, it's very interesting.
You don't even know what it's called.
But he was going deep in there, brother. He was trying to find some gold.
Yeah, he was trying to find some gold. He was definitely going to see what he had for lunch.
So now we see Steve. He's really getting into the dancing. He loves the dancing now.
Yeah, he's getting really into that.
So now they start following Skip around, and then they figure out that Skip now works at a steakhouse because one of the cops, Steve shows a cop, the Skip guy, and then the cop asked the informant, the cross-dresser informant, that they know Skip and he works at a steakhouse. So we have this cops going there, sitting at the table, and ordering a steak.
The Iron Horse.
Is that part of the fisting, or is that the steak they order?
No, that's the name of the steak restaurant that Skip works at.
Gotcha.
It's in Penn Station, he says.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, everybody go to the Iron Horse. You might get a steak and, you know.
Probably not still there, but yeah.
So doctor now tells the police, the doctor they've been working with shows the police what kind of blade killed a lot of the victims. And this is when the captain shows Steve the knife that he should be looking for. All right, it's kind of like a steak knife, basically.
So I thought that they went to the restaurant and stole a steak knife, and asked the doctor if a knife like this could commit the murders, and he said yes.
Yes, you got it. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, because they're trying to figure out their victim. They think it might be Skip during this time. So now they start staking out Skip, and they wired up Steve. And basically the wiring machine wasn't really working that well, but we did hear a couple things about like getting tied up and stuff like that. So they all rushed the building, and they rush right in. We could see that Steve's all tied up and stuff, and they arrest both of them. And then they start interrogating both of them, saying like, who paid for the room, and what were you gonna do? Were you gonna stab him? Were you gonna kill him? And then Skip's like fucking just freaked out and crying and everything, like, no man, it was his room. It's his room. And then Steve admits that he paid for the room and it was his room. Talking about that too. Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, some like cowboy jacked up black dude in a thong comes in there and slaps his ass.
And a cowboy hat.
He fucking slaps the shit out of Steve.
Slaps him out of the chair, yeah.
And he leaves. And Steve is like, what the fuck? Who the hell is that? And they're like, don't worry about it. And then
like what was that supposed to be? Like, what was their plan?
I don't know. But then they separated the two, right? And then they got Steve in the other room, and Steve's like, yeah, man, you guys came in too soon. I almost had him. Like, you guys came in too soon. And then he goes to the dude's like, hey, man, you slapped me for real. And the guy's just reading a newspaper. So then they get Skip back into the room.
Yeah.
Saying, like, they're basically just trying to, like, get him to admit that he was going to kill him with a knife, and he doesn't. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, man, well, what we're going to need you to do. Well, after all this happened, the black dude comes back in there and slaps the shit out of Skip a couple times. Yeah. And then he leaves, and Skip's like, who is that dude?
And it's like, did the cops just have like a cowboy in a thong, like walking around the precinct to slap people when they, whatever?
You get out of line, Brian. Yeah. You get out of line. We're gonna bring in Judge to get you.
Judge, because like for a minute I think maybe this is just something that they don't do anymore and we just don't know about. But like the characters in the movie don't seem to understand what's going on either.
Very interesting. This is like, listen, the movie is not about comedy, but that part was funny as hell. When that fucking dude came in and slapped everybody, it's like. So now they're saying like, hey, they go over the different murderers and saying that we know that you killed this guy with his knife. And he's like, here's what we're going to do. You need to drop your pants. We're going to need a semen specimen. And then we're going to do something like a float thing where we're going to see if your balls float in the water.
Right. Which can't be a real cop. That can't be a real cop thing, right?
Well, apparently that's what they did to this guy.
Apparently.
And then they come back after all the semen and balls floating. They come back saying, the prints didn't match.
Mm-hmm.
So why the fuck did you need his balls and his semen if the prints didn't fucking match? I mean, I know why, right. Because remember they said that the guy who was killing didn't have, sperm and stuff, so they wanted to check it, but they said they determined that Skip wasn't the guy because of the prints and everything.
Yeah. But why go to that trouble if they know it's not him? But
yeah. So now the people are saying, Chief, they got the wrong guy. All right. And Steve goes back to Nancy. And he's like, he's not really talking to her too much. And she asks, like, why? He's like, don't worry about me. All right. And then he's like saying, well, what this job is doing is like, is affecting him. All right. And then maybe they both agree right now to cut loose for a little while. Steve and Nancy. Which is weird because a couple of scenes ago we just saw them fucking the whole time, and now they apparently she was always saying like, well, you just don't want me anymore. I was like, well, we just saw you guys fuck like 2 scenes ago.
Yeah, well, right, but I think that the idea behind that is like he's starting to get lost in this
lifestyle,
right?
Yeah.
And then so he doesn't want it to affect his relationship with her, so he's trying to pull away from her a little bit, I think.
So now Steve is talking to Chief about not getting paid for doing this job and getting roughed up by this dude we have no idea who it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he says the job is getting to him, and then the Chief is like saying like, listen, this is the job about, you're my partner in this one. I'm trusting you in here. We're finding a murderer. It's supposed to be a hard job. And he's like, hey, can you check out this yearbook and see if you match anybody from the yearbook for the doctor's killings? He's like, okay. So he takes the yearbook back with him and eventually finds a picture of the guy named Stewart that he recognizes from the club. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then this is when we meet Stewart. We can see that Stewart is some like younger dude who works out. He only does he runs fast and he does bicep curls. That's it. That's all he does for working out. And he's talking about, a little bit about his dad, and he's talking about his love for like writing and music and speech and stuff. And this was Steve does find the address where Stewart is living, 140 Claremont Avenue.
Yeah, and Richard Cox played Stewart. Richard Cox was in Hellhole.
Ah, gotcha. He's the Hellhole man.
Ago. Yeah, yes. He was in. Yeah, my notes were a little confused there, but yeah, he was in Hellhole that we did a few months ago. Yes,
and he's besides him wanting to be a singer and everything, be a writer and stuff. He's also wants to do a music career as well too. And he's telling his friend this, and his friend doesn't care. He just wants to know what's the party out tonight. Okay, and then Steve basically follows him everywhere. Follows him through the park. Follows him to this house, the school. He just follows him around everywhere. Every little place. So then Steve goes into his Stewart's home, and he goes through his drawers, and he sees like a bunch of pictures and everything, and eventually gets to his leather closet. And he sees all these letters to a person named John Richard, which is Stewart's dad.
We find out that later, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we find out that later, but that's basically what it is, his dad. And he had a letter on here, which I did take a picture of. And one of the letters says, someday I'll be able to tell you all I've done to make you look up to me. But I ought not to have said this much. It seems we don't learn anything from experience, but just go right on repeating mistakes.
Yep.
And then he writes that to his we see in love of Stewart to John. So now, he's going through the whole leather stuff. You can see all this stuff on here. So we see that Stewart is reading a newspaper of the gay killer still at large. and Steve is still following him. They both lock eyes together. And then we have Stewart playing with the piano, and we see Steve looking outside, and I guess Stewart saw him, and then he goes straight to his letters. So I couldn't tell if like Stewart knew somebody was following him or Steve was following him or not at this point. Oh, and I also said that Stewart also looks like Kylo Ren.
Yeah, he kind of does. I thought I noticed that too. He looks like Kylo Ren.
So Stewart now meets his dad in a park in his mind. All right.
I thought this scene was kind of weird.
Yes. He's like saying like, Dad, I know what I have to do. And the dad's like, you know what you have to do. Okay. So now he puts on his boots and leather. All right, so Steve leaves the room. He's basically in his room. And then before Steve leaves for the night, he visited Ted's room. And this is when we get Greg. All right, so he's like, hey, I'm looking for Ted. He's like, oh, you must be the famous John Forbes, because that's like Ted's like fake name. I mean, that's Steve's fake name, John Forbes. And he's like, oh. And Greg's like, apparently I got back in town just in time. Do you always visit Ted around dinner time?
Oh, yeah.
All right. And it's like, he's like, no. He's like, well,
I don't.
He's like, where is Ted? He's like, Ted's working right now. He got a real job at IBM Machine, and he gets it because nobody wants to work there late at night, and that's how he got the job. All right.
And that's a really good job, though.
I know. It's a good job, Ted. Maybe, is this the same Ted? Who's the smart Ted? Is there a smart Ted out there?
What are you talking about?
Maybe I'm thinking about the bear or something. I have no idea.
Holy crap. I have no idea what you're talking about.
So anyway, they're going on, right? And now he's saying like, hey, I'm glad that Ted got this job because he's too involved. And apparently everybody who lives next door is too sensitive. No, Ted is too sensitive, and he gets involved with too many guys who live next door who are all crazy like you.
Right.
So now Steve is pissed. He starts banging on the door and everything, right? And then we cut the scene, and then Greg's like in there, and this green tidy whities just opens the door, and then Steve rushes out in, and they start fighting each other. And you can hear that Greg saying, like, "Oh, you love him." He's like, "I'll play your game," and he pulls a knife on him, and then he leaves. Steve. So I guess this scene was made us to think like maybe Greg could have been the killer of the shocking scene at the end.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I think it's supposed to be like, could he be the killer kind of thing? Yeah.
So now Steve goes and confronts Stewart, who sees him through a window, supposedly. So they all follow each other, eventually meet at the park area. Stewart is waiting for him on a bench. Steve goes there to a bench, asks for a lighter. They both flicker their cigarettes perfectly at the same time. Hold on a second. All right. And this is when we hear Steve do the little killer song. Oh, we're both here at the same time. And Stewart thought that was kind of weird. So that's another hint of the weird plot in here. So now, this scene was very interesting. I never seen like such a serious transaction of let's gonna be fucking.
Yeah.
Like the most serious. Very interesting. So they're right. All right, and then the first Stewart's like, okay, I'm not gonna take you to my place, and Steve's place is too far, and Stewart's like, well, why don't we just do it here? I was like, well, I don't like in public. He's like, there's nobody around, don't be worried about it. Okay, so now Stewart asks him, what's your size? And Steve's like,
party size.
And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
I was trying to think, does that mean really big or really small?
What if
but
I say
fun size is really small, right? Like the little candy bars.
Yeah, mine would be a lollipop size. Okay, brother. How about that? All right. And then Stewart's like, what are you into? He's like, well, I'm into everything. And then Stewart's like, I don't do anything. I was like, what?
So I was confused by this whole thing. So like Stewart says he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And we're thinking Stewart is the killer.
Yes.
At this point. So does Stewart actually not do anything, or?
Well, they ask for.
This is where I started getting confused.
They ask for hips or lips.
Yeah. He says hips or lips, which I guess means, do you want me to fuck you in the ass or the mouth?
Yes.
Right. I guess what that means.
And I'm guessing Steve convinced him to take his pants off, and then he just stabs him right away. Steve does.
Well, kind of. So I think this is like a Han Solo Greedo kind of thing. Like, who shot first? I mean, obviously Han Solo shot first, but anyway, in this, like, so he convinced him to take his pants off, and then he steps on his pants so he can't run away.
Yeah.
And then, but then what I saw in the movie was, that Stewart pulled his knife, and then Al Pacino pulls his knife and stabs him first.
Yeah, I guess it was up to whichever angle you saw it at.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, it happened so quick. I guess I'd have to watch it again. But like, I don't know. I guess you could see it both ways. Like I don't know who pulled their knives first, but like and I think it's left to be ambiguous like that. Like you don't know, who actually pulled their knives first. Like was Stewart defending himself or thinking he was defending himself, or was he trying to stab Al Pacino?
So now
this is when the movie starts to get weird.
Yeah. So now we have Stewart in the hospital. All right, and the captain's asking him, "Yo, we got your prints on that coin. The Eric case." All right, and then he said Stewart's confused, and he's like, "Well," he's like, "You went to go stab our police guy first." He's like, "No, I didn't. He stabbed me." All right, because they're basically saying like, "Hey, this guy that you stabbed was our police, undercover cop." All right. And he's like, "Listen, this is what the captain," and I could not believe this. The captain's like, "Listen, if you can confess to killing like 8 people, basically, we'll just give you 8 years." I was like, what? Wait,
dude, that happens all the time. Like that's some shit you need to believe.
God damn. All right.
That happens all the time.
Maybe they just have you die in prison or something.
And this is like, this is something that this is me going to step up on my soapbox, but this shit happens all the time. And there are people that confess to shit that they didn't do all the time because their cop pulls them into a room and says, "Hey, we got all this evidence on you. Your buddy, like, is going to testify against you," because cops can lie to you. They don't have to tell you the truth. Like, your buddy said you did it, and he's going to testify against you, and he's going to get off scot-free, and we're going to electrocute your ass. But if you confess to it, we'll only give you, life in prison. And the guy sitting there is like, "Well, I didn't really do this, but they can probably convict me, so I'll just go ahead and confess so I don't get the death penalty." That shit happens all the fucking time, and it should be against the law, but it isn't. So here we are.
So Stewart said, "Hey, I never killed anyone." All right, and then during this, the captain is now welcoming Steve to the detective office. All right, we see the cops go through Stewart's stuff, and this is when the friend says, like, "Yeah, he wrote all these letters to his dad, but his dad died like 10 years ago, but he acted like the dad was still alive." All right?
Yeah.
And then now the cops are in a different building. They're in the same apartment building that that Steve and Ted all lived in. And we got the guy from Maniac there. And this is when they found Ted all stabbed up and dead in the bathroom. As where the captain comes in here, and they're saying like, he did have a roommate named Greg, and then there was this other person who lived downstairs, but also and she was like, "Okay, well, who lived next door?" "Oh, a guy named John Forbes." And then the captain looked all kind of worried and stuff, and he's like kind of like looking like semi confused, and he says, "Jesus Christ." And then we have Nancy going to her apartment. She sees Steve is there now. Steve let himself in. And he wants to go talk to her after he's done with the shave. Nancy sees all of Steve's leather gear and she puts it on.
Yeah.
And then he looks at himself in the mirror. We're back at the boat. And that ends our story.
Yeah, so like this whole ending was like, so she puts on the aviators and the leather cop hat and the leather jacket, and she looked really hot when she did all that. But I'm just saying that I'm a little confused to this ending. So is this ending supposed to imply that Steve was the killer?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I could see little hints throughout the whole movie now that we reviewed it and everything, that you could see that there was some hints that Steve was either the killer or like he was transforming into being a killer.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that has to mean something. Like, her putting on his gear has to mean something.
Well, she was in on it?
No, I don't think that's it either. I don't know what it means.
Maybe she's just like leather.
Maybe. It's just weird that she just put that stuff on at the end of the movie, and then basically the movie just cut.
Well, you know why she did it, Alison? Because it was written in the script.
No, of course.
All right, that's how we explain plot holes like that. It was booked.
Yeah, because the plot needed her to.
Yeah, exactly. The director told her to put it on. All right. But everybody that has been cruising, I thought it was a good movie.
I thought it was great, yeah. Like I said, William Friedkin's never made a bad movie, and this was not bad either.
The had a lot of good mystery to it. You know what I mean? Very good stuff, good acting. I thought it showed a very dark, dark story, obviously, and it showed very accurate. I say on a lot of things this movie did. So, thumbs up over here, and thumbs up to this month, New York horror 1980s horror month. It's been fantastic, very fun month. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So
it was a very fun month.
Yes, and shout out to the Andres that helped us put this month together. And if you all ever want, I've gotten some other requests too for some fan months. Like I said, we had the Killer Objects month coming up pretty soon that we want to do over here. That was a fan requested one. But if you all give us any kind of reviews, ideas, you can send us on the Instagram, on the Facebook, Retroblood, or you can email me or us at retroblood69@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let us know. If you want to see something, you want to see us talk about something, let us know.
But everybody, I highly enjoyed this month. Maniac, the New York Ripper, Manhattan Baby, Cruising. You know what I mean? All wild movies. Join us here next month.
Oh, this is going to be a biggie.
Because the Retro Blood is starting the October month of doom.
Dark beers. It's starting to be dark beer season.
Starting to be dark beer season. We're starting to do a little bit more lights out. We're going to have the annual Halloween show where I get super trashed and try to review a movie.
Always. You always get drunk.
And we do our yearly series. Movies series. And this year, the Retro Blood is doing the Amityville Horror series of the 80s and a little bit of the 70s.
And if you thought Manhattan Baby was bad, just wait.
Just wait, brother. The haunted house of probably the most famous haunted house, I assume.
I would say so, yeah. We should talk about the history of
we will.
The real story, which I'm sure we will do.
Well, okay, here's how it's going to go. So we're going to do it Lights Out, which is, we have a bunch of new listeners on here. The Lights Out is basically the alternative. We haven't done one in a while. It's true. It's the alternative podcast of the Retro Blood where we get out of the 80s and we can go to any era. We have a DeLorean, brother. We just travel to any area. No rules on there.
No rules. No rules here.
Yeah, we don't really have a format. We just talk about the movie. We talk about the history, whatever. So we are going to do the original. Yeah, drink a lot. We're going to talk about the original Amityville Horror, which I believe it came out 1978, 9, something like that?
I was thinking of 78 or 79, yeah. Almost the 80s.
Almost there. So we're going to talk about that original one, probably with the original story on there as well, too. And then for the actual Retro Blood, we're going to do Amityville 2, 3, and 4.
No, that's going to be fantastic.
And I know one of them's a 3D one.
Yeah.
Golly. And
Amityville 3D.
And then we have a very special Halloween episode that I think I want to save for everybody when I talk about it.
Yeah, let that be a
fun.
surprise.
And then, of course, for all of our wrestling fans, me and Alison are going to come back on the Lights Out 2 and do Battle of the Halloween Havocs 3.
3. Oh, yeah. So the first year we had a draw.
Yes.
The second year I won.
Yes.
So let's see if this year, if you beat me with the Battle of the Halloween Havocs.
Yes. And we'll be telling y'all probably on the Lights Out that we do for the Amityville, we'll tell you the 2 shows that we're going to be battling out here.
Have you picked your Halloween Havoc yet?
I'm close to one, but I just don't know because I was like watching some of it in the hotel, and I was just like, "Fuck, I don't think I can get through this."
I usually wait till you pick yours so I can pick a better one.
I think I might do a surprising one this year, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because there's something I want you to watch, and I kind of want to talk about it. So I might do a surprising one for everybody out there this year.
All right.
But yeah, join us here, next week as we do Amityville Horror number 2 on the official Retro Blood. But like I said, we will be dropping the Amityville 1 on the Lights Out. So listen to that one before you listen to the number 2.
Yes. Watch, listen in order.
Exactly.
That's important. I'm sure there's a ton of continuity between these movies. So
yeah,
I've only actually seen the first one. So the 2, 3, and 4 could be fantastic, but I wouldn't bet my life on it.
This one's going to be a little rough because me and ghost stories don't really get along, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay, fine.
We'll see how it goes. You know what I mean? Like how this month freaked me out with a lot of these serial killers. I know the ghosts freak you out, Alison. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Ghost shit freaks me out sometimes.
So, but everybody check out Running. What was it called? Running Man?
The Iron Maiden
Yeah.
song, Running Free.
Running Free, brother. Kind of like Cruising Free. You know what I mean? Like our boy Steve did.
Yeah.
Where he may or may not be a killer now. We don't know. You know what I mean? There was hints behind it. Yes, he was. There was hints that he wasn't. But we'll never know.
Well, we'll never know. It's left to our imaginations.
Left to our imaginations.
Sometimes that's for the best.
But everybody, like I said, check out our jam-packed October month. We'll be dropping the Lights Out here pretty soon. Before it's probably gonna come on the Saturday, right before the 4th. Yeah. That's probably when we'll be dropping it, and then we'll have the
5th, the night of Bad Blood.
Yes, the night. Yes, you got it right. The night of Bad Blood, the 5th, we'll be dropping that Lights Out on the Amityville Horror, and then on the 6th, that's when we'll be dropping the Amityville 2. So check it out, everybody. So, everybody. James Kline and J.H, Alison, we will see y'all later.
See you guys.